we've got your Raiders covered. Sound off with Silver and Black tonight, Tuesday nights at 6 on CBS Sports Radio 1140. We've got your Raiders covered.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
It's Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Live from the home away from home for Raider Nation in Las Vegas, the Stage Door Casino, just off the famous Las Vegas Strip. This is Las Vegas's only all Raiders talk show, Silver and Black today, now in our 76th straight week on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Happy Football Sunday, Raiders fans. A day when your 6-4 Raiders head to East Rutherford, New Jersey to take on the 3-7 New York Jets. A game John Gruden and crew can't take lightly. Yes, New York isn't a great football team, but the defensive front will challenge the Raiders' stout offensive line and be an obstacle for rookie sensation Josh Jacobs. Is it a trap game? It doesn't have to be, but it could be if Oakland loses focus. After the Raiders win against the Bengals last week, the emergence of rookie defensive end Maxx Crosby dominated the headlines as the fourth rounder out of Eastern Michigan was named the AFC Defensive Player of the Week. We'll talk about his impact on this team and how the defensive front of the Raiders continues to improve. Guests on today's show coming to you live on the Attorney Michael Troiano Newsmaker line include longtime Jets insider Dan Leberfeld from JetsConfidential.com. He'll tell us about today's opponent, how the Adam Gase-led Jets are doing heading into this morning's game. Is that defensive front as good as the stats say, or will the Raiders dominate the line of scrimmage and leave the Big Apple with a win? We mentioned the week Maxx Crosby had. Well, Silver and Black, today's senior NFL columnist Moe Moton is back, and he'll talk about Crosby's ascension based on his red-hot column this week and why Crosby's big season was Raiders fans forgetting about Khalil Mack's sack numbers, at least a little bit. We'll also ask Mo what he thinks about today's game and get his prediction as well. Later in the show, our legal eagle, attorney Michael Troiano, will get us up to speed on the latest NFL police blotter. Yes, there's been activity there. And also we'll finally get to talk to him about the Myles Garrett meltdown and why the Browns player wasn't charged with a crime. Finally, we'll visit with the king of Raider Nation's best bar in Las Vegas.
Yes.
John Vizcarra, Director of Operations here at the Stage Door Casino. And he'll tell us about the big plans he has for Raiders fans next week for the huge game against the Chiefs, including the exclusive Silver and Black themed cocktails. Yes. Made with tequila commissario, which you can get here next week. He'll tell you about the bevy of beauties known as the Stage Dorettes. Lock them up from Chaz, who will be here along with the other specialists to go along with Las Vegas's only dollar bottle of Budweiser and the amazing $2 quarter-pound Nathan's Hot Dogs. You have to be here next Sunday. It's not an option if you are a do-or-die member of Raider Nation. We'll have Chaz's keys to the game and the infamous Kelly's Corner as well, as I welcome my squad, my co-hosts, my offensive players of the week, and that's because they usually offend me for fun, Mr. Chaz Osborne and Kelly Kreiner.
Yeah.
Good morning, fellas. How are you?
Good. Good to see you guys again, as always.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Raider Sunday morning.
it is Raiders Sunday morning, but this is an interesting week because the Raiders guys, I think, I said it all week, a lot of folks, I think, taking the Jets lightly, and that's a concern to me because this team, the Raiders, they're playing better. That young defense is coming along, but you can't in the NFL overlook anybody, especially when you're on that cusp of being a wild card team. And the Raiders last week against the Bengals, which we'll talk a little bit about after the break, but they did not exactly instill in me the confidence that they can put away bad teams, Kelly.
Oh, no, definitely. Last week was one of those games where you wanted to see him come out and just take it to Cincinnati from the get-go. This game should have been over at halftime. You know, you wanted to see that kind of effort. And it was one of those games where at no point did you think the Raiders were going to lose.
Right.
But in the back of your mind, you're watching this thinking, this is the game. This is that one game they lose every year.
Well,
There's always that one game that they should win, that they're going to throw away, and you kind of started to get that feeling that could be this game.
yeah, you see that a lot of teams, they play down to their competition. But I thought it was so much fun watching Maxx Crosby bouncing around, and dominating both ends of the line. You know, he just overpowered John Hart, Bobby, what are those guys? Who cares? Bobby Hart and John Jerry.
Yeah.
But you know what I really love was
Jerry.
I love the chess match that Josh Jacobs was playing with the defense. Just the way he goes and the way he moves, man. Love watching that guy.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine that works in the NFL, and we decided that Cincinnati's offensive line would be the 5th best offensive line in the SEC West.
Yeah, they were terrible. Their defensive line kept them in that game. They did a great job.
But because we're talking about whether or not this is the worst offensive line we've ever seen in the NFL in Cincinnati.
Right.
And we came up with yes.
Yeah, Maxx Crosby.
Miami's is bad too. But Cincinnati's offensive line, in our opinion, is the worst starting offensive line we've seen.
A lot of matadors on that line.
Well, guys, the Raiders also made a move this week. Preston Brown, 6'1", 251-pound linebacker, joins the Raiders after spending the majority of his past 2 seasons with the Bengals. He spent his first 4 years with the Bills after being selected in the 3rd round of the 2014 draft. Over his career, Brown, 80 games, 77 starts, 1 sack, 5 interceptions, 14 passes defended, blah, 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 3 forced fumbles. In 1 postseason contest in 2017, he had 6 tackles. So Preston Brown, guys, obviously the Raiders have had to bring in bodies. Preston Brown, same thing, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's all he is. He's a big, slow linebacker who can't play in the NFL anymore, but he can play. He can play.
That's why they signed him.
He's a body. I mean, he's spot duty. This isn't a long-term play. This is somebody they're going to look at. He is not a if he's a long-term fixture, this defense is in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, Mike Mayock's getting all this credit for the draft, but, the thing that a lot of people don't realize is they bring guys in every week for workouts. When I was working in the NBA, every week we'd have guys in for workouts. The Raiders have been doing the same thing, and every time somebody goes down, they're bringing somebody in. And so far it's working. They've had a couple of nice additions that are being productive.
And that's what you have to do, because, it's a war of attrition at this point.
Yeah.
The Raiders have had injury issues. By far, they're not the worst. They have the worst injury luck. But, you see what they go through.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just something. It's a constant battle to field, 52.
Yep, week in and week out.
Yeah, it's interesting. And that's the thing, too. I think with this team, and this is where I know some of the fans out there get angry with me, but this is where I still say I'm not fully convinced. I think the Raiders have progressed. They're already at the win total I thought they would have for the entire season.
Yep.
So I think anything past this is sort of gravy. It's a great opportunity for them to have improved on where they were with a young roster, with still a lot of holes. But this is why I am not totally convinced yet. I was on the radio in Kansas City the other day, and they said, well, what's the deal? What do these guys have to do for you to be convinced they're a playoff team? And I think today a win against the Jets, which we'll get into later, obviously, would go a long way to prove that to me. Because if you can go across country, play a team that you should beat, but has some assets where they could beat you, then I would feel a lot better about it. And it's not that I'm being negative at all about this team, because again, I think they've overachieved so far, and they're on the right track. But guys, you got to put bad teams away. And they didn't do it last week. They did it last week, but not convincingly. It made me nervous watching that game, to your point. I didn't think the Bengals would come back and win the game, but I also was concerned that they could.
Well, it's the totality. You want to see a complete team. And, the run defense looked good to start the season off, the first half of the season. Now the pass defense is looking good. The offensive line looked great to start the season. With 4 games in a row where Carr didn't get tackled, and now they're kind of giving it up. So, you're seeing different parts of the team flourish here and then kind of fall off there. And so you want to see a totality. And we're not seeing the complete team yet. And so that's probably why you're thinking that, they're not a playoff team. But they're going to put it all together eventually, and they'll get there.
And also when somebody says, are they a playoff team? It's like, well, what are you looking at? Are they a wild card? Yeah, they're a wild card team.
Right.
Are they a Super Bowl contender? Not even close.
Right.
So it's like there's a big kind of swath of what you're looking at when you mention a playoff team. Like I said, I bet the under on their season win total. I thought that.
Yep.
I thought the 6 weeks schedule of away games,
right,
the London game,
going to wipe them out.
Yeah, I thought their schedule was going to be something they couldn't overcome. They've proven me wrong on that.
Yes.
I still say that. They may get a wild card, but they're not really going to do much in the playoffs.
No, but that's great. We talked about on the Tuesday night show a couple of weeks ago, just getting that playoff experience with all these young guys would be just monumental going forward. And then another draft next year and more guys coming in, but already having this foundation and then giving these guys some playoff experience.
Yeah.
Huge going forward.
It's funny because I'm not the playoff experience guy. I want the better draft pick. So no, but you hear it all the time. Like especially in the NBA, you got they got the 8th seed, they get that playoff experience. I don't care. I want in the lottery.
Yeah, but it's more prevalent in the NBA as well.
With the lottery, definitely.
Yeah, but when you're a team building, you want to see those strides, and if you can get to the playoffs and build off of that, you're done with getting that high pick. You're looking towards Super Bowl contention.
Yeah, well, and I think too though the playoffs for the Raiders, if they were able to get in this year, would be good, Kelly, because I would normally agree with you on that, because I think draft capital and having the ability, when you have to fill holes, you need it, right? You need the ability to do that. Coming to Las Vegas, the move coming in, building excitement from a marketing standpoint, from a city standpoint, that would help, I think, for people who might not be Raiders fans yet. If they come in off a playoff win or just getting in. Now, getting into the playoffs and not winning a game, different. Getting into the playoffs, winning a game when you shouldn't have, or people discounted the fact that you could, I think helps a lot.
Even the fact that they're knocking on the door, I think, is good enough for the move and for the fans of Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like they don't really need much because the move to Las Vegas kind of sells itself.
Yep.
And that's the other thing. Is like, yeah, you make it to the playoffs. If you get blown out in the playoff games, what did you earn?
Yeah, no, that's right. But this team, I think today, and we're going to get into it after the break, guys, but this team today, they need to go on the road. I mean, again, you have everything that they count against West Coast teams, the weather, the travel. Now, they did a 49-day road trip. I don't think going to New York one time is as big of a deal as most people would think it is.
Right.
But the statistics overall are overwhelming about teams going east during the winter and winning on the road.
Well, I was going to say that's really overrated, but that's more of a gambling perspective than an actual. No, yeah,
Right.
Because if you look at that's West Coast team, early game, East Coast. But if you look at the betting profile of it, it's not that big an issue. But I mean, just actual to the game, it's a little more skewed to the home East Coast teams. But I mean, people act like that's some big crazy stat, and it's kind of overblown.
Yeah, it is. But we don't have to worry about that. We got the New York City black hole over there, tailgating in the parking lot right now. Of course, our friends with the Rochester,
the New England
Club
group is there.
That's right.
There's a bunch of folks
singing in the rain right now. Shout out to those guys. They're going to bring it today. They're going to bring a little Raider energy for us.
All right, and we're going to bring it to you from here, from the Stage Door Casino, the home of Raider Nation in Las Vegas. Get down here, the only place in Las Vegas with $1 bottles of Budweiser, $2 quarter-pound hot dog. We had them. We had several last week. They're amazing. You got to get down here if you're going to watch the game starts at 10 o'clock. We are pregame, folks.
Yep.
Get down here. Do not wait. Come on in and watch the Raider game. They will have it on all 10 TVs with the sound up. That's right. So you won't miss it. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about last week's game. We're going to talk about Maxx Crosby. We'll talk about Derek Carr and how he remains hot as the Raiders head into East Rutherford to play the Jets. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Unfiltered hockey talk for Golden Knights fans.
You start 1140.
This is Mark Bedane, president of the Raiders. You're listening to Silver and Black Today.
Welcome back live from the Stage Door Casino, the home of Raider Nation in Las Vegas. Make sure you get out here for the game. The game, of course, coming up at 10 a.m. from New York, from New Jersey, actually.
Yep.
But come on out here. Again, $1 bottles of Budweiser, $2 quarter-pound hot dogs, and the home of Raider Nation. You come in, there's a Raider helmet hanging on the bar. There's a floor mat, the Raider floor mat, you name it. This is the place to be. Make sure you come down, spend some time with us, hang out, and watch the Raiders take on the Jets.
Just look for the Raider Nation van out in front. You can't miss it.
Is that the coolest thing ever?
A-team. Reminds me of Hannibal and the A-team.
Are you going to...
I pity the fool don't come down to the Stage Door Casino.
Was that Mr. T or was that a radio guy? 'Cause
I don't know what that was.
I pity the fool.
You pity the fool. Okay. Well, that's, yes, you look for the Raider van out front. You cannot miss it, guys. But this is the place to be. Make sure you come down, hang out. This game is going to be important for the Raiders. I really believe that.
Oh, yeah.
And if they want to show the world already looks at them as a playoff team. They're in the running. They're at 6-4. If they can win this game, it's a big deal because guess what? Next week, this little team from the Midwest is next.
Yep. And that's what, the one thing I wanted to talk about was the Raiders looking ahead. I talked to John, the owner of the Stage Door Casino, a little bit earlier, and we saw it with the Jets and the Cowboys earlier in the season. The Cowboys went into East Rutherford thinking, the Jets haven't won a game yet. We're just going to look past them. We're playing Philadelphia next week. And the Jets took it to them, man. So the Raiders can't do that. They can't look forward to the big divisional rival first place game next week. They got to just keep what's in front of them, stay focused, and take care of the Jets today.
No, they do, and it's important for them to do this. And I think from a rookie standpoint, from a young team standpoint, to go on the road with colder weather, because let's face it, they're from the West Coast. Yep. Colder weather, coming off a win that over the Bengals, where you should have maybe had a little bit more zing in your offense. They were a little bit, I think, tempered last week. But to come off of that and go east and beat the Jets, a game that people want you to win, expect you to win, would be huge for this team as well. But if we look at last week, guys, we look at the Raiders versus Bengals. Kelly, what did we learn last week in seeing maybe the Raiders not perform as well as we thought? They had a little bit of a letdown, I thought, after the big Thursday night win. They had the mini bye, the long week. What did you learn about the team, or what concerns did you see going in today based on last week?
The biggest concern is you saw a team that just still doesn't have that ability to step on somebody's throat. They find ways to win, which is important. Mm-hmm. But Cincinnati is a team that like we said earlier, you never really felt like they were going to lose the game.
Right.
But they never gave you enough to where you felt comfortable. This was a game they need. If you're going to be a playoff team, if you're going to be a contender, this is the game they should have went out and just plastered the Bengals, who are terrible, who are making no bones about the fact they're not trying to win games. Because Andy Dalton's a better quarterback than All-Pro Ryan Finley.
Oh,
if you're putting
I was waiting for it.
If you're putting your best quarterback out there and you're trying to win games, Andy Dalton is still playing.
Right.
So you're playing a team that's not trying to win, that's looking to the future, and you still struggle to put them away.
Well, Chaz, let me ask you this: to Kelly's point, is that not sort of a hallmark of a young team, maybe? That and this is where coaching, I think, becomes huge, because you have a young team who's maybe gets a little bit of a swagger. They come off a big win at home against the Chargers on Thursday night, and they're, as much as the coaches do their best to ensure that there's not a letdown, it sort of happens anyway.
Yeah, and their offense has started a little slow the last couple of weeks. I know we're going to talk about that later. But the Raiders, like Kelly said, they still took care of business. They were down by a touchdown. They came back, scored two. They scored that one just before halftime that really made you feel like, okay, they've got this game in hand. They're really not worried about it. And it was a relatively quick game, like we talked about. They just kind of ran the ball. The clock ran out. No injuries. Everybody stayed clean. That was probably the most important thing, coming out of there with a W and no injuries. And the Raiders have taken care of, I guess, they're 4-0, 5-0 against sub-500 teams. I know that Denver game, they weren't sub-500, and the Bears had a winning record at the time. But if you look at everybody's records now, the Raiders are 5-0 against those sub-500 teams. And here it is again, another sub-500 team. That's all they need to do. Just take care of business against those lesser teams. And then we'll talk about what happens when they come up against these bigger heavyweights.
Yeah, the difference, though, you look at the Jets' record, you have to throw the first 6 games out the window. I mean,
not really. I know that he played that first game against the Bills. They only lost by a point.
yeah, but he had mono at the time. They just didn't know it yet. No, that's what everybody forgets. He was sick when he was playing.
Right.
You know, you have to throw that completely out.
Okay, so we're looking at the last 3. He's 3-3 since he's been back.
Is it 3-3 or 3-2?
Either way,
3-2, but
either way. But let's talk about who he's beat, right? And
I'm just saying, the Luke Falk stuff, throw that out. That's not the Jets.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
and then they beat obviously Redskins last week, the Giants the week before that, but then they lost to the Dolphins the week before that. So really, where are the Jets right now?
Dolphins are a superstar, man.
Yeah,
they're performing better.
It's magic.
You know, people of course on them because of they trade the fact away, but he's done a good job coaching in Miami.
He's a coach that's trying to win because he's playing his best
That's
quarterback.
Right.
You can also tell that he's in charge of that team, unlike in Cincinnati, unlike in Washington, where ownership and the front office is making more decisions because you're seeing these guys play that should not be on the field.
It's got, like you mentioned, they traded away a lot of their good players, but now they've got a lot of young guys that are actually, they're auditioning for jobs.
That's right.
These guys are trying to get jobs next year, so they're playing hard.
And also, it's one of those things, if somebody offers you 2 first rounds and a second-round draft pick for your left tackle, you're taking that every day of the week.
Yeah.
I mean,
Of course.
every
You
team's
have
doing
to.
that. It's not like they're trading guys away just to trade them away. They're getting a ridiculous value for everybody they've traded. So
Right.
it's like, we
How
don't
can you not?
want to trade this guy, but that's the best offer we're ever going to get.
Well, and I think there's something to really be said for a young team, and you mentioned it earlier, Kelly, like the Raiders, where yes, they should be doing better against a bad team like the Cincinnati Bengals, but they come back and win anyway. They did this against the Chargers, too. They went right down the field and they scored.
Right.
Now, the offense didn't look good that night either, but they did what they had to do to win the game. And I think for confidence level, knowing that when you're down as a young team that you can come back with a veteran quarterback like Derek Carr, that helps. And, of course, Maxx Crosby, we're going to talk a lot about this here coming up next in a little while with Moe at the top of the hour. But Maxx Crosby, I mean, not only did he have a 4-sack game, okay?
Phenomenal.
But he had 3 of them in the fourth quarter. So that, to me, that's what's key is can your team perform when it matters most, which is late in the game, especially in a close game, Kelly. And that's the one thing you have to look at last week. Despite playing the Bengals, the fact that they came up big on offense and defense in the fourth quarter is huge.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier. They played probably the worst offensive line in the history of the NFL, but you need to see this when that happens. You want to see, like, especially Max and Cleveland, you want to see those guys who are still finding their place, still kind of doing that. This is the time you want to see them have big games because it builds that confidence, and it's a team you should do it against. You talk about, they've the under 500 teams.
Right.
That's who you want. You have to beat those teams, and they've done that.
Yeah.
It's like you need to see these guys make big plays against the Bengals offensive line because that's what it's there for. It's a huge building block for these guys because you're gaining confidence, but you're also, this is who you have to do that against, and they did it.
Right.
And guys, talk about though Derek Carr. I mean, so again, the guy that there's people who root against Derek Carr because they want another quarterback, and for whatever reason they just will never be a Derek Carr person, right? There's a part of Raider Nation that does not like Derek Carr no matter what he does, but it's undeniable that he has improved in the area of not turning the ball over, right? He's not creating turnovers himself. He's had a couple this year, but if you look at what he's done over the past series of games, big games for this team, he has been efficient. He's protected the ball. Even last week with the big run into the end zone, he's showing me something that all people should be, I think, aware of. But Kelly, is anybody going to ever be convinced? Well, the people who are not Carr fans?
No, and the first word you described him is why. You said he's efficient.
Yeah.
He's just not an exciting player. You look at some of the quarterbacks the Raiders have had in their past, in their history. The fans want an exciting. They want that. They want that Aaron Rodgers type that can throw for 400 yards, have massive plays, and Carr's just never going to be that guy. So you're going to have people that are just never going to be behind him because he's.
But it's wins. If you win, who cares?
That's the thing. Doesn't matter, though.
You don't think so?
No, because people are because people look at the wins, but people yeah, but why are we winning? We're winning because of Josh Jacobs. And they're saying
true.
that.
I'm seeing it in the chat here on our social media
because
channels.
Carr is just, anytime the first thing you say about anything is efficient, it means boring. Like, if you say your car is efficient is the first thing to describe it, nobody wants to drive that car, and I just realized that was a totally pun that was not meant to be made there. But that's just why people won't get behind him, because he's not exciting.
Yeah. Well, they got the fantasy football show up on the screen here, and I think that's what it is. It's kind of the fantasy football world we live in now. Everybody wants to see stats. Everybody wants to see excitement, high-flying action. And Derek Carr is just, steady, slow, steady turtle that's winning the race right now. And you talk about efficiency. He's in the tops in all those categories. But not only that, but I think he's a leader. He's a leader in the locker room. These guys look up to him, and you can hear it in their interviews after the games, even we talked about after those losses, they still had the confidence. They still had that next game mentality. And I know Derek Carr brings that and that leadership.
No, you're right. And I think you're right about the whole fantasy football thing. People want big numbers when you watch somebody like Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson or Pat Mahomes, and they're just putting up ungodly numbers. If you're a fan of a team, you want your guy to be that person, right?
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily how it all works out. But anyway, all right, we're going to step aside and take a break here. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Dan Leberfeld of JetsConfidential.com. He's covered the Jets for years. We'll talk to him about this team and who the Raiders are facing in New York today. You're listening to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
CBS Sports Radio. The only way to take Silver and Black Today with you is with a radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back to the Stage Door Casino, where we are broadcasting live today. This is the home of Raider Nation in Las Vegas, just off the Las Vegas Strip. Flamingo, just east of the Cromwell. We saw Raiders alumni Roy Hart walk in. We'll talk to him a little bit later. He's here. Come on down, say hello to a Raider alumni, and we will have a blast. We welcome you down here to the Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio. And we're going to go out now on the attorney Michael Troiano newsmaker line and bring in our good friend, and that is Dan Leberfeld from Jets Confidential in New York. He is at the game today. He has covered the Jets for a long time. Dan, welcome to the Silver and Black Today. We appreciate you being with us today.
It's great to be on with you.
Hey, Dan.
All right, Dan. So let's jump in. Obviously, a big game for the Raiders as they try to stay in the playoff game. A big game every week for the Jets as they try to get in the right direction. Overall, we know the Jets and the fans aren't happy with where they're at 3-7. But what's the overall feel about where the franchise is, where it's headed under General Manager Joe Douglas and head coach Adam Gase?
Well, I think this is an important game for them, even though the Jets are a team without a great record, because they've won 2 in a row, but they beat 2 teams that are really bottom dwellers when you look at the Redskins and the Giants. I believe they're a combined 3-17. So facing the Raiders at home today, it will be a better test as to whether this team has truly made progress after their bad start. It's one thing to beat the Giants and Redskins, it'll be a whole other deal to beat of the Raiders, who are a much better team than those 2 clubs.
Yeah, and it's Chaz. There was a lot of talk last season surrounding the Raiders' 4-12 record, and maybe the game had passed John Gruden by. But now we're seeing what happens when you trust the rebuilding process. Can the same be said for Adam Gase, in your opinion, or is he just not the right fit for this team?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it's a situation where you look at the Raiders. I think John Gruden, where he improved most, because John Gruden can coach, we all know that. I think he improved as a personnel guy. As far as the decisions on the personnel side, it seems like after the Antonio Brown release, they're in a total different place now as far as the attitude they have. The last draft, I know, is before Brown's release, but the last draft was rock solid. They're bringing in, good character guys, tough guys, and I think that's where John Gruden made the biggest improvement, and that brings me to Adam Gase. I think that Adam Gase was left a really bad roster by the former GM who was fired in May, Mike McCagnon. So I think just like the Raiders have done a much better job with the personnel department this year and with the draft, I think the Jets next year with Joe Douglas running the draft and the free agency, I think that'll help Adam Gase a lot, because Gase has not done the best job as coach. I'm not going to sit here and say that.
Right.
But, man, was he left a bad roster by the former GM.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Again, we're joined by Dan Leberfeld of JetsConfidential.com. Dan, of course, the big signing in the offseason for the Jets, Le'Veon Bell. He came out this week and said he's still happy with his decision. He's comfortable with it, despite kind of early struggles for this team. Talk about his impact on the team and whether or not you see him in their long-term plans.
When I read that, it struck me a totally different way than perhaps other people. It's like, the premise of the article is that he has no regrets. I wonder if they have regrets. He's just been average, to be honest with you. He's not. One of the problems is he's got that running style where he's very patient and he waits for the hole.
Right.
Well, the Jets have had kind of a patchwork offensive line issue. You got to hit the holes. You can't act like you're on the Steelers 2 years ago with perhaps the best line in football. So that delayed running style has kind of hurt the Jets and hurt the player this year, because he's not having a great year. His yards after first contact is really bad. So, look, I'm not looking to pile on Le'Veon Bell. He's done some good things. He's done some bad things. But he makes way too much money as far as the contribution that he's making, as far as bang for his buck. It hasn't been great as far as Le'Veon Bell and the Jets.
Hey, Dan, it's Kelly Kreiner. You mentioned the offensive line earlier. Do you think that's going to be the main focus on the draft, to try to get Darnold some more protection and get Le'Veon Bell going, or do you think they've already kind of decided Le'Veon Bell's not their future and they're going to try to look another way?
Well, I think with Le'Veon Bell, I think he's definitely going to be back next year. After that, I don't think so, because the money in his contract is very top-heavy. It's all in the first couple of years. So I think he'll be back next year. And, look, he hasn't been terrible, and he's been a good team player, and he says all the right things. So he hasn't been a distraction in any way, and his teammates like him. So I think he'll be back next year. I do think the offensive line will be a focus in the draft. But I'll tell you one thing they've quietly been doing on the practice squad at the end of the roster, Joe Douglas has been adding a lot of linemen, off other teams' practice squads or street free agents, just stockpiling linemen left and right on the practice squad and at the end of the roster. So I think they're already focused on that this year, looking towards the future.
All right, again, we're joined by Dan Leberfeld of JetsConfidential.com. You can follow him on Twitter at JetsWhispers. And, Dan, we look at this game today. You said both important for both teams. And for the Raiders, their offense gets started with the run, with, of course, the rookie sensation Josh Jacobs. And the Jets' run defense is one of the best in the league. Talk about that defensive front. Is it as good as it shows in the statistics? Or is it maybe a little bit of who they've played? Or what's your impression so far of that Jets defensive front?
It's good, not great. Obviously, the run defense is highly ranked, but the pass defense has been a big problem, meaning that, there have been so many games this year, they stopped the run, but whenever the other team needed to get a first down with the pass, they did it. It's kind of like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're very similar. They're very highly ranked as a run defense, but teams pass at will on them, and that's been the case with the Jets. That's another big need in the offseason. They need to go out and get a number one corner. They gave Trumaine Johnson from the Rams enormous money last year. That has worked out very poorly, and he's on injured reserve this year, so he's not even playing anymore. So right now they're starting two guys at corner that really weren't on the radar entering the year. One of them is a guy named Bless Austin, who was injured. He blew out his knee twice at Rutgers. They picked him in the 6th round. This was going to be like a redshirt year, but he got healthy, and they activated him a couple weeks ago. He's starting as a rookie at one corner. The other corner is a journeyman named Arthur Millette, who's been on a few teams. So, to me, the Raiders, I don't think the Raiders are going to have tremendous success running the ball today, but I certainly think they can pass against this group of corners. So I think that's where the Raiders need to make hay, picking on the Jets corners with their weapons at wide receiver, and obviously Darren Waller at tight end.
Kelly again here, Dan. They've been moving Jamal Adams all over the line, had him as a pass rusher a lot more lately. Is that something they're just kind of testing out, or do you see this being a staple of the defense in the future?
The thing about Jamal Adams, and when he was drafted, he didn't like the stigma that he's a box safety. And he is more than a box safety, but so much of his work this year has been in the box. He's a really good blitzer. But when you look at, what he did in the last couple games, he blitzed a ton against two rookie quarterbacks. As far as Dwayne Haskins last week and Daniel Jones 2 weeks ago. That's not going to cut it against Derek Carr and John Gruden calling the plays. That's not going to cut it because they'll find the holes and they'll take advantage of it. There's an old saying from the late coach Ted Marchibroda, when your team blitzes, one of the team's fans is playing after the play, meaning that you got a big play or they had a big play. And last week, the Redskins were not very good, but their biggest play of the game was Darius Geis on a screen on a Jamal Adams blitz. So Jamal Adams blitzed on that play, didn't get there. So Geis is off to the races on a screen, and Adams, since he blitzed, was not back, in the secondary to help make the tackle. So I don't think the stuff that Adams did the last couple weeks against two rookie quarterbacks blitzing like crazy is going to cut it against Derek Carr, John Gruden, and what the Raiders do on offense. Veteran quarterback, veteran coach. They're going to have to be a lot more careful today than they were as far as Adams blitzing the last couple weeks.
All right, let's talk about Sam Darnold for a minute. I know he's, 3-3, 3-4 as a starter. We talked about the Jets maybe finding their groove, but it's kind of been against lower competition the last couple of weeks. How do you see Sam Darnold this season? He's been a little bipolar, a little up and down. Do you see him kind of finally finding his groove and taking off today?
I think he'll do fine today because, as you guys know, the Raiders, you talk about needs for a team in the offseason. Obviously, corner is going to be a big need for them as far as the Oakland Raiders and Las Vegas Raiders are concerned, because they're not great at that position. And I don't know if the inactives came out yet because I've been on the phone, but LaMarcus Joyner, is he playing today?
No, he's doubtful, and I have not seen but everything we had heard, Dan said that he's not going to play.
All right, so
he's out.
down another guy. So I think Sam Darnold will have a big. It is a little rainy and cold here, so I don't know, that could impact the passing games. But I think that Sam Darnold should have a strong game today. I think what's happened with Darnold is, as the season's gone on, Adam Gase and Darnold are a lot more comfortable with each other and on the same page now as far as the type of play calls that Adam Gase is dialing up for the quarterback he's working with for the first time this year. So that's something I've seen the last 2 or 3 weeks. The coach and the quarterback really being on the same page with the play calls. And this tight end has just emerged for them. Ryan Griffin, who just got a contract extension, he's been prolific, because what's been going on is, with all the attention that Robbie Anderson and Demaryius Thomas get a receiver, also Le'Veon Bell out of the backfield as a receiver, I give Gase credit and Darnold credit for this. They said, you know what? We're going to throw to Ryan Griffin. You're not even covering him. So that was smart. So I think the Raiders will probably pay a little more attention to Ryan Griffin. But if they do that, perhaps it opens up one of those other guys I mentioned.
All right, Dan Leberfeld from JetsConfidential.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Jets Whispers. Dan, thanks for joining us, and enjoy the game today.
Okay, guys, have a good one.
All right, Dan Leberfeld from Jets Confidential giving us the lowdown on today's opponent for the Raiders. We're going to step aside when we come back. Chaz is going to give us his keys to the game today. How will the Raiders beat the Jets? He'll tell us what they need to do. We're coming to you live from the home for Raider Nation to watch the game. It's starting to fill up in here. This is the Stage Door Casino. Come on down, right off the Las Vegas Strip, Flamingo, just east of the Cromwell. You can't miss it. Look for the Raider van out front. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
The Crusaders. NCAA basketball this afternoon at 2 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Welcome back to the Stage Door Casino, the home of Raider Nation in Las Vegas. Get down here, watch the game here. If you're not here, I don't know that you can call yourself part of Raider Nation. You got to come in, check it out. The only dollar bottles of Budweiser in the entire city of Las Vegas. That's right. That's the only place to get it. $2 quarter-pound Nathan's hot dogs, delicious. Come on in. 10 TVs with the Raiders game. No other games, just the Raiders game. Sound up. You can get crazy here. You can yell. You can have fun, just like a fan should do, and as a member of Raider Nation should do. Speaking of a member of Raider Nation, we're excited. Walking into the Stage Door Casino again, Raider Nation, a former Raiders player, Raider alumni, Roy Hart joins us. Of course, Roy played at South Carolina in college.
Yes.
He was actually also a member of a team I covered for just a little bit,
yes.
the Las Vegas Posse.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Of the CFL.
94.
That's right.
CFL.
That's right. A lot of folks don't even realize that we had a CFL team here in Las Vegas with Ron Meyer as your coach.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Ron Meyer, of course, a former UNLV head coach as well.
Yes.
As well as the last game was played out there at Sam Boyd Stadium. Roy, thanks for joining us here today. And you're down here. Big game for the Raiders today. Chaz is going to kind of give us the keys to the game. We want you to sit in on that. But a young team like this, they're playing well. Even when they're not playing their best per se, they're winning games. How important is that?
Very important that they carry through. Like we was talking earlier in the season, you guys asked me what did I think our record would be by the end of the year, and I think I said 10-6.
You did,
if I'm not mistaken. Yes. They just must continue to carry through, continue to play well. Defense, of course, is still rattling around the football. You know, of course, and that's what it really takes. You know, our defensive front is tenacious. You know, I love the speed and the quickness that those guys are displaying up front. And, of course, on the back end, our secondary, of course, is still strong, coming along, and, of course, we're getting better. Now, the New York Jets, of course, you're traveling to their home. Yep. They're, of course, an NFL team just like all the other. So you have to make sure you take it seriously. And I feel as though, of course, Coach Gruden got those gentlemen ready for the day. You know how big this game is. 7-4, staying right there with Kansas City, having to play them one more time, of course, is huge.
Chaz, let's talk about the keys with Roy. Let's run down that and see what we think.
Well, the one thing Roy was talking about, I talked about earlier, kind of early on in the season, the Raiders' run defense was great, and then that's kind of gone away, but now the pass defense has been great. Is that part of kind of the ebb and flow of the season, you know, the learning, growing process?
It is. When you have a young group and tenacious group as we have, it takes a minute for it to gel. Right. And, of course, with the coaching of Coach Gruden and the rest of the coaches, I see those gentlemen coming along. And, of course, we all know it's about effort and want to. And I know we have the right players out there, and Coach Gruden know how to recruit those players, and it's showing.
Yeah. You always see that during the season. One part of the team does great, and then they kind of fall out, and then a different part of the team does great. Special teams, the offensive line.
You want it all coming together when it needs to come together.
Absolutely.
You're going to have your ups and downs. Throughout the season, you're going to get people injured back and forth in different positions. But at the right time, and, of course, this is the right timing now, you want it all gelling and coming together.
Down the stretch, of
course.
That's right. Well, the keys of the game, really quick, I feel like the Raiders need to get off to a quick start. You know, you talked earlier about the West Coast team traveling to the East Coast, these early times, and how they affect the West Coast teams. They kind of come out flat, and the Raiders have come out flat the last two, offensively anyways. The defense played great, to get them on the board against the Chargers, got them up 10-0. But, just come out quick, a quick start. The Jets are 0-2 when they fall behind early at home, and the Raiders also 0-2 when they fall behind early on the road. So for me, maybe a couple of long sustained drives to start the game off, get up 10-0, maybe a 17-7 halftime lead, something like that would be ideal. The Raiders can't be overlooking, like I talked about earlier. They can't be looking past this game to Kansas City next week.
Of course not.
Right? We saw what happened with the Cowboys looking ahead.
This could be that trap game for them, and they on the road, and it's early also. Of course, coming out strong, it makes a huge difference.
And talk about that focus. How do they stay focused in the moment in each game?
It comes with, of course, your preparation. When you know that you're prepared correctly, and the coaches have prepared you correctly, and of course your flow during the week of practice all makes a huge difference in how things are flowing. So when that happens and you get that feeling, the focus has to be there. And like we say, we've been focused in certain parts all year long. with really putting pressure, or either running the ball really well with Jacobs, throwing the ball really well with Carr. But we definitely need to come out strong on both ends of the ball in New York.
And I've heard that, I talk about it a lot after the games and the interviews in the locker rooms and in the press conferences. You can still hear their focus. Even after the losses, they're still talking about the next week's game. They're still focused.
Yes.
So that's a great point. Okay, so the next key is make things complicated for Sam Darnold, right? Of course, the Raiders need to get pressure on him. That's always the thing. But more than that, I would like to see him mix up the schemes a little bit, make him uncomfortable. Darnold's hitting about 67% of his passes this season, but he's only 41% when he's under pressure. Right. So he's got 10 interceptions in only 7 games. So the Raiders' defense really needs to come out with that same intensity. We've been seeing it over the last few weeks. Just make it uncomfortable for him, right?
Well, yes, the same type of intensity that we came out against Cincinnati last week.
Right.
Of course, enjoying the game myself last week, defense was really strong.
Yep.
They come out. It maybe gave up a few here and there, a few penalties back and forth, but they still stayed focused and kept the path. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking they're going to do the same thing again today.
Yeah, it feels like they've still got that same. So the last key is third down effectiveness. Now, obviously, third down's key in any team, any game. But the Raiders, the Jets, they're 26th in third down defense. They're giving it up 44% of the time. And the Raiders are third in the league at moving the chains on third down at 47% of the time. So even more, the Jets' offense is last in the league in third down efficiency. They're only picking up first down at 25% clip. So that's where the pressure on Darnold will really need to be effective. And these third downs, us moving the chains, the Raiders moving the chains, and getting the Jets off the field on those third downs.
The more our offense moves the chains, the more it's going to assist and help the defense.
Yeah.
And the more the defense is rested, the better the pressure is going to be.
Right.
All around, from the front end and to the back end.
The Raiders are leading the league in 10-plus play drives this year.
Yes.
So just a lot of more of those long, sustained drives, ball control. We always talk about that. It sounds kind of vague, but there's a lot to it. Hanging on to that ball.
If you're keeping the other team's offense off the field, they can't score on your defense.
Yep, that's right.
All right, well, that's it. Chaz's Keys of the Game with our special guest, Roy Hart.
Thank you
Raiders
very
alumni,
much.
who's down here at the Stage Door Casino, just off the Las Vegas Strip, east of the Cromwell, home of Raider Nation. Come on down, meet an alumni. And Roy is such a great guy. You're all over the community. We appreciate you stopping in and talking with us.
We thank you very much for inviting me also. And, of course, anytime.
All right. We'll see Roy again, I'm sure, very soon. All right. We're going to step aside for the top of the hour sports update. Make sure you get in here. The only place you can get dollar Budweiser bottles in Las Vegas. Quarter-pound hot dogs for $2. And better than that, you get the Raiders on 10 TVs. That's right, 10 TVs with the sound up. Get in here. It's going to get packed. Make sure you come down. We are the Silver and Black today, coming to you live from the Stage Door Casino. And we'll be back right after this. Don't go anywhere.
CBS Sports Radio.
Hi, I'm Ian Eagle. For the best sports talk, expect it here. CBS Sports Radio.
We've got your Raiders covered. Sound off with Silver and Black tonight, Tuesday nights at 6 on CBS Sports Radio 1140. We've got your Raiders covered.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
It's Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to Las Vegas's only all Raiders talk show. That, of course, is the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. We are coming to you live from the home of Raider Nation in Las Vegas. That is the Stage Door Casino here in Las Vegas, right off the Las Vegas Strip, just east of the Cromwell. Look for the Raiders van. It is a van full of Raiders logos and a little special message on the back. Make sure you check it out. You can't miss it. But we are down here, again, the only place in Las Vegas with $1 bottles of Budweiser. It's the truth. It is absolutely the truth. And you can also get $2 quarter-pound hot dog as well. We are going to bring in our guest here, Moe Moton, shortly. But we wanted to also make sure you guys are aware that we also now have a Tuesday night show. That's right. Silver and Black tonight is on Tuesdays from 6 to 7. That's where we get an opportunity, myself and Chaz Osborne, get the opportunity to talk about the game that was. So on Sundays, we're here with you, and we're kind of talking about what's coming up. But on Tuesdays, Chaz, we get to talk about the game that was.
Yeah, and it's great, the fans, we're getting fans calling in. Everybody gets to kind of sound off about the game and their thoughts. And so far, the last few weeks, it's been all positive because the Raiders are winning. So it's been great taking those calls and talking to the fans and recapping the game for everybody.
Yeah, and it's last week we were preempted by UNR basketball.
I know. I don't know why we still did the show. We weren't even on the air.
I know. It's one of those
weeks.
Basketball.
You guys need the practice. So, it always helps to get them reps in.
Thank you, Kelly. Kelly can always bring us back down to earth, and I appreciate that. All right, we are now going to go out on the attorney Michael Troiano Newsmaker line, where we welcome in our senior NFL columnist, one Mr. Maurice, or as we call him, as most people call him, Moe Moton. Mo, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing pretty good. It's Jets versus Raiders week, so that's an exciting time for my family. As a lot of people know, grew up watching the Jets.
Yep.
And when I was able to pick my football team, I switched over to the Raiders. So a lot of excitement there for me and my family.
Are you over there in the parking lot in the rain, or what's going on?
No, I'm on Bleacher Report duties today, so I'm not actually at the game, which is pretty funny because a lot of people expected me to be there because a lot of people don't know that the Jets actually play in New Jersey.
Right. Yep.
So they're not sitting in my backyard.
They're not in Brooklyn?
New Jersey's maybe. No, they're not. People don't know that when you live in Brooklyn, you don't go into the city, you don't go into Jersey unless you really have to.
That's right.
That's right. Again, we're joined by our senior NFL columnist and Bleacher Report contributor, Moe Moton. Okay, Mo, so this week you had a great, very, very hot, popular column after Maxx Crosby's performance last week against the Bengals. You wrote a column talking about how the comparisons to the Raiders defense and the Khalil Mack sack number, they're kind of fading because of Maxx Crosby and others, of course. But when we look at Maxx Crosby, what he did last week, I mean, the numbers are astounding. 4 sacks, tied for the second most by a rookie in NFL history. He's the 4th rookie in NFL history to record 4 sacks in a game and the first to do it since Brian Orkapa in 2009. Also, I mean, it goes down and down. I'm not going to go through all of them, but he got 3 of those sacks in the 4th quarter when it mattered the most. Mo, talk about the progression of this kid. I was one of the doubters when he got drafted. Kelly will tell you in our draft show, I was just kind of like, I don't get it. But I'm wrong. Everybody's been wrong. What is it about Maxx Crosby that's made him so good, and why people are forgetting about Khalil Mack's sack numbers?
Well, the first thing about Maxx Crosby, and everyone talks about it, is his motor. And this is a guy, he's a relentless. You want a guy who's got a relentless pass rush, and he's pretty athletic. So he's going to be able to beat guys with a little bit of speed. Not so much a power guy because after the draft, Mike Mayock said this, and even the draft scouts that talked about it said this. He has to bulk up a little bit, and that's why I think people didn't think he would pop as quick as he's popped. But even I said in the second half of the season, I think he can make an impact because the Raiders didn't really have anybody at defensive end. So who else is going to make the plays? I know Kelly's not a big fan of Arden Key. I expected more from Arden Key, at least something from Arden Key. I know he's hurt right now, but when you're deficient at that position, somebody has to step up, and it's been Maxx Crosby because of his motor, because of his speed. And you got to give credit to Brentson Buckner for developing those players. Now, with the Khalil Mack sack comparisons, my article did two things. It was to say, number one, let's not compare Maxx Crosby to Khalil Mack. No, he's not Khalil Mack yet, and I know most people will know that and will say that.
Right.
But the thing is, a lot of people made fun of the Raiders and say, hey, how many sacks does Khalil Mack have compared to the whole Raiders team? And that was kind of the theme last year. A lot of people love to do that on Twitter, compare sacks between player and team. And now with Maxx Crosby breaking out and Cleveland Farrell showing some flashes, you can't do that anymore. And my thing is, we could turn the page on that. And we don't need to talk bad about Khalil Mack or dump on Khalil Mack to praise Maxx Crosby for what he's done. Let's just turn the page. Next chapter, okay, the trade happened. Khalil Mack is now with the Chicago Bears, and the Raiders are moving on and trying to develop their talent, and Maxx Crosby has a bright future.
Hey, Mo, it's Chaz. You talked about in your column, Maxx Crosby winning that defensive the week award. And the thing I loved about Max, he was so humble about the award. He just continued to echo the team's singular focus of teamwork and not individual accolades. And, don't forget, he started the season with a broken hand, right? So talk about his growth, just from what we've seen. He wasn't even expected to be on the field. And then here we are today getting a Defensive of the Week award.
Yeah, again, and I think that humbleness comes from knowing that he still has a ways to go. I mean, he did have 4 sacks in the game. That he started off the season, I believe, first 4 games, no sacks. But he did show flashes with some pressures. And again, as you mentioned, he did have a broken hand, and I believe he broke it first preseason game or second preseason game. So, I mean, to see his growth, and again, Brentson Buckner talked about this. He talks about technical game and not focusing so much on the sack numbers, because I know that's what everyone wants to see. They want to see sacks. But when you get a guy who's getting close, he's getting the pressure, so you can see the progression there. He's getting close to the quarterback, getting hits on the quarterback, getting some penalties along the way, I know, some of those questionable. But he's actually coming through, and I think you mentioned this earlier in the show. It's good to see him do that against a bad offensive line. And today, the Jets have a pretty bad offensive line, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him get 2 more sacks against a vulnerable front line for the Jets.
Yeah, and the rookies are playing this good this early. I mean, there's so much room for improvement. Just, we talk about all of them. Hunter Renfrow, I know it's Kelly's favorite, but all the rookies, just talk about how much they have to improve. There's so much more room here.
And we know, I mean, people. There's one thing I want to just pump the brakes on, and I know the Raiders are in the playoff hunt, and I think they have a really good chance of making an article about that. But let's not go overboard on what the Raiders are. They're still a young team, so they're still going to have these ups and downs. I know they had a kind of I know Scott mentioned kind of a letdown against the Bengals because everyone expected them to crush the Bengals.
Right.
But they, as you just said, they're still a young team. So these are the things with the young teams. They're not going to put teams where you feel that they think they should. They're still learning how to close games and steal games, so you're going to get these uneven performances. So this game against the Jets is actually not a trap game. I think this is going to be a pretty good game, especially with the weather element added to this.
Well, again, we're joined by Moe Moton, senior NFL columnist with silverandblacktoday.com and a contributor at Bleacher Report. Mo, despite, I'm sure, to the chagrin of your relatives who are Jets fans, this game coming in today, to me, I think is really important. And I'm right there with you. When I talk to Raider fans or our listeners, I try to tell them, they ask me, why are you not convinced that they're a playoff team? And it goes back to what you just said. It's not that I'm not convinced they're playoffs. I think they can be, but there's so many holes, and they're young. You just don't know week to week where they're going to be at. Now, they've shown a little bit of consistency and some progress and some growth, but that's where, fans, I get it. It's been 20 years. It's been a long 20 years, and they finally have some kind of light at the end of the tunnel. But when you look at the matchups they have the rest of the season, of course, today in New York, it's not easy to go on the road. I don't care who you are and how much better of a team you may be. It's still difficult, especially as you guys are enjoying your balmy weather there back on the East Coast.
Absolutely, and I just think we just need to look at this Jets team, and I think Kelly mentioned this too early in the show, for what they are the last couple of weeks. I know they had Luke Falk in because Sam Darnold had mono, but the Jets offense has been buzzing the last 2 weeks, scoring 34 points in back-to-back games. I know Le'Veon Bell hasn't been at his best, but he's still a threat to catch out of the backfield. As we know, the Raiders sometimes had issues covering tight ends and running backs out of the backfield because their linebackers are so slow. So this game is one that I think could be really close. I think it's going to come down to Sam Darnold and Derek Carr. Who has the better passing game? Because as we know, the Jets have a really good run defense, #1 in the league. They held Saquon Barkley to 1 rushing yard in a competitive game, so that's something to think about. And on the other side, the Raiders have a pretty good run defense, and again, Le'Veon Bell not playing that well. So I think it's going to come down to Carr and Sam Darnold. Who has the better game, or whose secondary can hold up? The Raiders have played well in secondary in recent games. The Jets have backups in their secondary, so we'll see how that pans out.
Hey, Mo, it's Kelly. Max is getting all the headlines right now, but Trayvon Mullen may wind up being the most important rookie for the rest of the season with the way that secondary is looking. What have you seen from him the last couple weeks that really kind of excites you?
Sticky coverage, and I tweeted this right during the game. Before his interception, he was getting so close to these pick sixes, and he's in the right spot at the right time. And I know on the scouting report they said he needed to work on sticking with wide receivers who are good route runners because he can kind of bite on double moves. You haven't really seen that. You haven't seen him out of position. And again, when he got that pick six, you could see it coming because every step of the way he was close. He was close, and then of course Maxx Crosby got the pressure on that pass so he can get the pick six. But it's good to see him flourish pretty early, especially after you traded Garrett Conley. I wrote an article that said it was, it's kind of like addition by subtraction. You get rid of a so-so and average, below average player, and you hope that your rookie blossoms pretty quickly, and that's what we're seeing from Trayvon Mullen.
All right, Moe Moton, our senior NFL columnist at Silver and Black Today and also contributor at Bleacher Report, is joining us live from Brooklyn, not from East Rutherford. You're not on the Jersey side, for those people who aren't familiar with the area. But Mo, okay, so you already said you're kind of on record thinking that the Raiders are going to come out of there with a win today. How do you see it going down? What's going to be the key to the game for you if the Raiders do come out 7-4 heading into that big game next week against the Kansas City Chiefs?
Got to attack the perimeter. As I said, I think Dan was on the Jet guy who covers the Jets said it. I mean, offer a mullet, and then you got Tremaine Johnson's on IR, so then you got Bless Austin. Interesting note about Bless Austin is the Raiders traded a 6th-round pick with Kelechi Osemele to the Jets, and they used that pick to pick up Bless Austin in the 6th round. So it's pretty interesting to see him on the field starting. But again, it's going to be about the passing game. I know it's a little bit, it's not raining now, but it could pop up during the game. It's a little brisk for you West Coast people. So I don't know how that's gonna affect Carr, but I think he'll be fine, especially against that Jets secondary. It's pretty much atrocious. Besides Jamal Adams, Marcus May is okay, but he doesn't have any picks, so he's not really an impact player this year. But I think it's gonna come down to the passing game. Maxx Crosby's got to get pressure on Sam Darnold, get him to move because Sam Darnold does throw, and I said this on Twitter. He does have at least one pass every game where you kind of scratch your head and like, what was he thinking? So you just gotta get him into that mode, throw a couple of head scratchers, attack the secondary, and the Jets will be fine. The Raiders should be fine and come out with the win today.
All right, Moe Moton, senior NFL columnist, silverandblacktoday.com, and a contributor over at Bleacher Report. Mo, thanks as always for joining us, man. Enjoy rubbing it in to your relatives if the Raiders do come out of their win, and we'll catch up with you real soon.
I've got one quick question for you, Mo. This is something all of Raider Nation is waiting on to hear. Do I start Jamal Williams at Green Bay or Miles Sanders as my running back today? Because I have running back issues like crazy.
All right, I think you start Jamal Williams just because passing game, he's effective. Running game, he's effective. Miles Sanders, I'm kind of worried, but the Eagles' offense didn't look good. So out of a bye, so it kind of worries me a little bit against the Seahawks. They're better against the run than the pass. I know Miles Sanders is a factor in the pass catching game, but I like Jamal Williams today.
All right, man. I'm starting Miles Sanders, by the way.
Look at that. Mo, you can always count on Kelly going against everything else we say.
I already made that decision.
I know. All right, Mo, hey, have a good day, my friend. We'll talk to you real soon.
Thanks, Mo.
All right, appreciate you guys.
All right, Moe Moton was our guest. We are going to step aside when we come back. We're going to be joined by John Vizcarra. Of course, John is the Director of Operations here at the Stage Door Casino, of course, the home for Raider Nation in Las Vegas. Come down, watch the game. Our super caller, our super fan, Wally, is here. He's sitting at the end of the bar, and he's ready for action. So get down here and join us. You'll see him here on the camera in just a minute. You're listening to the Silver and Black Today. You're on
279.96.
The Wolfpack take on the Crusaders. NCAA basketball this afternoon at 2 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
How you doing? This is Charlie Garner, and you're listening to Silver and Black Today. Stay tuned.
All right, Charlie Garner bringing us back in. We are here at the Stage Door Casino live for the Raiders versus Jets. Raider Nation's home in Las Vegas is the Stage Door Casino. We got a Biletnikoff jersey. We got a Howie Long jersey Wally's wearing out here. We're getting it rocking. Roy Hart, Raider alumni, is here in the town. We also have the Twos. And that, of course, our good friend John Vizcarra here from the Stage Door Casino. He is the operations manager here. John, thanks, Ken. Another great morning. I mean, the mood, the feel with this big game today is just amazing.
Right? I mean, Roy Hart, infectious. I mean, I want to go play football.
I know. He makes you want to run through a wall, doesn't he?
I think I could. Maybe, probably not.
All right, but we're here, and we're talking to you today about, of course, the Stage Door Casino and everything you have going around here for Raider Nation.
Right.
But today, let's talk a little bit about this game. I love it because here we are. We do the show from 8 to 10, and the game starts at 10 o'clock.
It's awesome.
But as a Raiders fan, of course, you own the Raider van that's parked out front,
Yep.
which is phenomenal. We've posted the pictures. People can see it. You're wearing your Twos jersey. Right, so you're ready for action.
I'm pumped.
And if you're a Raiders fan, what do you want to do? You want to go somewhere and watch the TV. You want to be able to hear it. And what do you want to do?
I want to be able to yell. I want to be able to drink. Right? I want to be able to celebrate Raider Nation and not have somebody come over and go, hey, could you please quiet down? No.
It's not a 49er bar where they're drinking white wine and being quiet, right?
Wow. Wow.
I had to get that out there for fans. I thought they'd appreciate that. But, John, the one thing, too, here about Stage Door Casino is it's so convenient to get to. People think things around the Strip. You have a parking lot out front.
Right.
You have the Raider helmet hanging on the wall there. You got a Raider floor mat over here. When you walk in, you feel comfortable. What is it about the staff here and about the way you guys run your business that's so welcoming to Raiders fans as they come in?
It's a neighborhood bar, right? Neighborhood bar. So think any neighborhood bar in any city in the United States. We have that here.
Yeah.
Right off Strip, Las Vegas, right in the middle of all these hotels, you can find a neighborhood bar.
Well, not only that, but a neighborhood bar that's been here for a long time.
40 plus years.
And we talked about last week, too, Frank Sinatra used to come in here, right? And now the ghost of Frank's got to be around here somewhere, right?
Well, listen, I don't like ghosts, but but you know, if he's gonna drink and have a good time, then he's welcome.
All right, so we talk about dollar Budweisers here at the Stage Door Casino, dollar bottles of Bud. You can't get that anywhere else. I mean, people, it's not that we're just saying that.
No.
You cannot get dollar Budweisers anywhere else in this valley.
You cannot get dollar Budweisers anywhere else. You can get dollar bottles of Budweiser here at Stage Door Casino, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's not a promotion. It's our way of life, right? It's what we do. It's neighborhood bar. It's come on down, get to know the bartenders, get to know the other people that come down here. Have that place where you know you're comfortable and you know what you're going to get.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's us.
Yeah, and your staff here is amazing. I mean, just the nicest people ever. Take good care of you at the bar, whatever you have to do, whatever you need. You need a hot dog, you need a beer, you need a mixed drink, you're going to take care of it.
Yep.
Now, next week is going to be a special week here. We will be back, Silver and Black today. We'll be here live again. But next week is the Chiefs game. Now, we don't want to look past the Jets game. Today's a big game. How do you feel? I know you don't make predictions.
Right.
But how do you feel about today's game with them going back east?
I mean, with the energy that I got from Roy Hart, I mean, I'm ready for the Super Bowl, right? I mean, I'm ready. We can beat anybody. But no, realistically, we don't want to look past the Jets. I think we you know, we have a good momentum going right now. If we just stick to that, I'm sure we can come out with a W.
Yeah, and so then we talk about next week now, Chiefs game. If the Raiders can win today, 7-4, they're going to go into Kansas City, a really tough place traditionally for them to play, especially the last couple decades.
Yep.
They're going to go in there. Both teams would be at 7-4. Chiefs coming off their bye. And you have a lot of things planned here for next week, very special things.
Right.
Let's start, first of all, we'll be here. But then secondarily, there's going to be some other much better looking guests here next week. Isn't that right?
The Stage Doorettes. We're going to have 4 Stage Doorettes down here, ready to pose for pictures with the guests, ready to serve Comisario tequila, ready to serve the other drinks that we're going to have on hand, which is going to be the Silver and Black and the black hole.
Yeah, now tell people, because first of all, now that the stage door-ettes are going to be here, my wife suddenly wants to be here. I don't know if they're connected.
I don't blame her.
But nonetheless, Tequila Comisario, you're going to be here with special drinks. Let's talk first about that black hole drink. What is it? What's inside it? And why do people want it?
So the black hole drink is just basically a shot of Johnny Walker Black, right? Because if you're talking about the black hole, it's got to be straight alcohol, right? It's got to be straight.
No filter, no
filter,
water,
no mixer, no nothing, right? It's just Johnny Walker Black in your face, down your throat.
Gotta love it. Now the other drink,
the Silver and Black.
Silver and Black. That's a little bit more of a cocktail. Talk a little bit about that.
So that's Comisario Tequila and Kraken Rum, the Black Kraken Rum, and that's going to be lined with a black salt around the rim, and I'm sorry, the black hole drink will also have a black sugar rim.
Sugar rim, yeah. That's amazing. So that's what I keep trying to tell people, because we had, after our first week here last week, some folks messaged us and said, "Hey, is it really a Raiders bar?" And the answer is yes.
Yes, it's really a Raiders bar.
It's really a Raiders bar. And you guys, I mean, that's the thing. With the Raiders coming to Las Vegas, you are in close proximity, of course, to the stadium site right down the street here. Right. Las Vegas is geographically very small. And it shows the commitment that you and Stage Door Casino have had to make this a home for Raider Nation.
Right.
For people who come in here, in addition to being able to see the game, hear the game, what else is it for them? It's the gathering, is it not? It's coming together with others who have the same passion you do?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I like to look forward. You know, let's close our eyes for a moment and just imagine that this is next season and you've flown into Las Vegas and you're staying at one of the local hotels and it's the night before the game and you've got that Raider energy jumping off, and where am I going to go to satisfy that urge? Well, you're going to come down to Stage Door Casino. You're going to come down for our pre-game party, right? And you're going to party at Stage Door with other Raider Nation family and not break your wallet.
Right.
You're going to come down here and have a great time and still have money for the next day.
That's right. John Vizcarra, the operations director here at the Stage Door Casino, joins us to talk about Raider Nation's home in Las Vegas, and that, of course, is the Stage Door Casino. In fact, one of our other sponsors, our next guest, attorney Michael Troiano, who's here, that's what he said to me in the break. He said, he's like, I love the feel of this place. And that's what I said to him. I said, it really is a neighborhood bar. And for those of us who lived in Las Vegas, and no offense to other businesses, but the intimacy you used to have here in Las Vegas back before the big growth spurt happened, you find it here, don't you?
Right. Yeah.
And you guys get people coming back. People, not only visitors, of course, they come back, but also the locals. I mean, you come in here, there's a lot of locals here.
We've got a guy that's coming down here, and he's a stadium worker. And he told me the other day, he goes, John, I've been coming here for years. My kids come here now. Right? So it's that generational thing, right? It's that bar, again, that locals bar, that neighborhood bar that you went to, your kids are going to, and hopefully someday, you live long enough to see your grandkids.
Your grandkids come down and have a drink with them. Okay. Well, John Vizcarra, next week, December 1st, we're starting at 8 o'clock with the broadcast.
Yep.
And we're going to go all the way through to the game, which is now 1 o'clock. So we're going to have a day-long party. Again, you're going to have the black hole. You're going to have the silver and black drink. $1 Budweisers, of course, every day. The $2 hot dog, which is great. The Stage Doorettes. It's the Chiefs versus Raiders. How excited are you?
I'm very excited. One thing I need to mention, also on that day, $5 shots of Comisario tequila.
Oh, yes, our good friends, Tequila Comisario.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay, so people have got to get here next week. They got to plan it right now to be here for that big game.
Because, listen, it's a neighborhood bar, it's a locals bar, but there's not that much room. So get down
get
here
early.
Get your seat.
That's right. Look for the Raider van. You can't miss it. John Vizcarra, thank you so much for, having us here and for being on the air with us.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, we're going to step aside for the bottom of the hour break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by attorney Michael Troiano. He's going to go through the NFL police blotter with us, and we'll even talk a little bit about the Myles Garrett issue, as we haven't had a chance to do that with him yet. You're listening to the Silver and Black today, here live from the Stage Door Casino, just off the Las Vegas Strip, the home of Raider Nation in Las Vegas.
on the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back. Stage Door Casino, just off the Las Vegas Strip, east of the Cromwell. It is the home of Raider Nation here in Las Vegas. If you're not here, why aren't you here? Come on down. The game starts at 10 o'clock. You got 25 minutes to get here. $1 bottles of Budweiser, $2 hot dogs. Amazing time. Come down, hang out with other Raven fans. We got a Matuzak jersey. We got a Howie Long jersey. We got a Bolitnikov jersey. Yeah. We got everybody down here ready for this big game. So come on down and join us.
Those are I just inhaled one of those hot dogs, man.
Did you? I'm going to have one after the show.
So good.
But we are joined now by our good friend, sponsor, and our legal eagle, as I call him, attorney Michael Troiano. He's a criminal defense attorney. Check out TroianoVegasLaw.com. Whether it's a simple issue like DUI, which is not necessarily simple, to something more serious, he can handle it. So make sure you go to TroianoVegasLaw.com. All right, Michael, we haven't talked to you in a little while, but what I want to start with is the Myles Garrett situation. And he played your team, of course, the Steelers, until the Raiders get here next week, and then you're going to switch.
That's right.
But the Steelers, the incident where he takes the helmet, he hits Rudolph in the head with the helmet. Some people ask the question, Michael, why wasn't he charged with a crime? Was it because it was on the field? I mean, what's the difference there when you commit an assault like that, where it's clearly not part of the game? Why wasn't he charged?
Well, generally, there's what they call an assumption of the risk, where when you're on the field or the ice or the basketball court, whatever the sport may be, you understand that you're engaging in a physical activity, and things are going to get heated. But in a situation like this, I absolutely believe that if, in fact, the district attorney had the gumption to file charges against him, that it would be something that could proceed in a criminal fashion. It was way outside the bounds of a football game. I think everyone here and all our listeners have watched tens of thousands of hours of sporting events, especially football, in their lives, and I can't even remotely think of something that I've seen that rises that level of, other than the malice of the palace with the Pacers. It was disgusting. The only reason that I don't think that they've moved forward on any kind of charges is just because that's the wish of the NFL and all the people that are involved with the Steelers organization, the Browns organization, and collectively they don't believe it's in their best interest to keep this in the news, right? Because it's embarrassing.
Absolutely.
As an NFL fan, as a Steeler fan, a Browns fan, you name it. So that was an assault. That was an assault with a deadly weapon. He could, if that occurred in Las Vegas, Nevada, he could easily be charged with a felony, and it's right there on video.
Can Myles, the quarterback for the Steelers, can he pursue something outside of the NFL?
Absolutely. He could go forward on a civil suit. Now, there's always another side of the argument, right? When you watch him kind of trying to grab around his helmet and things like that. But I think if you're Myles Garrett, you're Myles and Mason Rudolph, very fortunate that somehow, some way, that helmet did not cause much more serious damage than it did. I mean, I've watched the play live. I watched it many times replay, like many of you have, and it's just amazing that he didn't just immediately just blood and you name it just go everywhere. I can't believe that it sounds like nothing happened, because we haven't heard anything, right? I haven't heard anything that any additional damage is done from that hit. So everybody all around very lucky.
Again, we're joined by attorney Michael Troiano. Michael, the question I have on that situation too is, so you have this all go down, and like you said, the district attorney in the jurisdiction in Cleveland, of course it's in Cleveland, right?
Yes.
It's the Browns, so it's a Browns player. So he clearly didn't take the opportunity to do that. But after the fact, he met with the NFL, and he claimed that there was a racial slur made by Mason Rudolph, right? Mm-hmm. In that case, if I'm sitting on the street here and I hurl a racial epithet at somebody and they assault me, is that an extenuating circumstance under the law, or it doesn't matter?
Is this theory? Do you really think he said it?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think there's been any of it, because you would imagine that other players would have heard it.
Yep.
So we have not heard any background or any backstory that shows that he did. Now, a lot of people do believe it, especially I've seen a lot of folks, including journalists who are African American, who say, look, it happens all the time on the football field, including former players. But at the same time, we don't know. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, from a legal perspective, let's say it did happen, which we don't know and we don't think it did. But if it did, in that case, what is that an extenuating circumstance when it comes to assault with a deadly weapon?
Well, if I'm Myles Garrett's attorney and he's charged and his claim is that the racial slur of that such was used against him, absolutely I'm going to be making that a big deal, because that's just such a disgusting and unnecessary term to say in any aspect. Is it excusable? No, it's not going to justify an attack on someone such as self-defense. The only way that you can use physical force against somebody else under the law is that if you believe that you are under imminent fear of being attacked or another person that's around you. So either defense of yourself or others. So assuming that it actually said, which I don't buy, that's just my personal opinion, then that would be something that you would bring up in the course of negotiations with the district attorney. But if you're just using an example, as far as a law school essay, for example, no, that's not going to change the fact of what he did.
Right. So, but to Scott's point, if he's instigating something, and then somebody on the street goes ahead and clocks him one, it's Scott's not at fault, because he didn't come after anybody. He just said something. He instigated the person, provoked him. So it's always going to be the other person's fault for retaliating with violence.
Sure, just like in sports, right?
100%.
It's always the second guy who gets the penalty, if you will. So absent some sort of proof just showing that they started it and they instigated the event with threats of violence or some sort of outward action that they were going to be attacked, you don't need to wait to be punched in the face.
Right.
Essentially.
That makes sense. All right, now if we turn our attention to some other incidents that have happened earlier. Again, we're talking to attorney Michael Troiano. He's a criminal defense attorney here in Las Vegas, TroianoVegasLaw.com. Miami, Mark Walton, running back, was arrested for domestic violence. Police say he punched his pregnant girlfriend several times in the head. Unbelievable. As a new father, I'm sure you joined in my disgust in that, no matter what, even if she wasn't pregnant. But in this case, the Dolphins did the right thing. They immediately released him. So the evidence must be pretty strong. But secondarily, when you assault somebody like this, when you commit a domestic violence act against a woman who is pregnant, what's the difference? Is it handled any differently under the law as well, because there is a child, there is a baby, and the woman is pregnant?
Can I make a comment about the evidence being strong
Sure.
that you made?
I knew you would like that one.
Yeah. We're talking about the NFL here, right? So there's always a balance between his talent and what the evidence is.
Yeah, right.
So I'm not familiar with what exactly the extent of the evidence is, other than the police officer who said there was bruising on the eye, so that would be pretty strong to me. But if he was an all-pro, I got a feeling he'd still be on that roster. But I digress. As far as a pregnant woman is concerned in this particular incident, no. She was punched in the face several times. As far as we're aware, there was no effect on the baby. And not to get too far into the weeds, but every state treats in utero children, babies, much different. It really gets into the whole Roe v. Wade, abortion laws, and I don't want to get way into that because that just brings up a whole slew of issues. But again, back to negotiations, right? If you're discussing a case with the district attorney, there's going to be some more political incentive, if they will, if it's a victim who actually has a child inside them. Other than the law, the only way which you would have additional penalties is if, in fact, that child was viable outside the womb in most states, which takes a lot longer than 5 weeks, usually 26 to 28 weeks. And then that child would have to pass away for the district attorney to try to get creative and bring additional charges regarding the death of that child.
Now, thank you for that. Now, the last case we're going to talk about was Daniel Ross, defensive tackle for the Cowboys. And this one, to me, is something maybe that I would imagine we see a lot amongst all of us, right, regular folks, which is he was pulled over, he accused of having marijuana in his possession, as well as carrying a weapon, an unlawful carrying of a weapon, which could differ by jurisdiction, right? But when you're talking about now, especially here in Nevada, you have legal marijuana, which you can't consume in your car, but you can transport it to your home, correct?
True.
And you have a weapon. What about this case? I mean, this seems to happen a lot, not just amongst NFL players, but I see it a lot in everyday life.
It's real interesting. I understand that nowadays the NFL players, especially the rookies coming in, are getting a lot more education as far as their finances are concerned. But they need to be educated on laws and how things are conducted. he has the money, he has the means, and as far as we're aware, he has no prior felonies. He could not easily, excuse me. I mean, every state's much different, but he has the ability to figure out a way to legally have that firearm on him. As far as Nevada is concerned, I always caution my clients, like, listen, marijuana is legal now in most aspects. Great, fine. If you want to consume it, that's up to you. It's a free country, or it's a free county here in Clark County. But don't rub it in these officers' faces. You know, when I go to the store and I buy myself, some beer or a bottle of whiskey, I don't just sit it there up in the passenger seat for everybody to see. Put it in the trunk, put it away, get it home, and then go about your business. And the problem with marijuana specifically is not only for a DUI purpose, if you will, or carrying a weapon. You can't be under the influence of any substance and have a weapon on you. So for both aspects, it's not just the active marijuana, the THC that's in your system, which makes you quote-unquote high. It's the marijuana metabolite that still, even though we've legalized the substance, is still a violation. So you can just have the metabolite, and I could put a forensic expert on the stand saying that, yes, he just has the metabolite in the system that's not active, he's not currently high or intoxicated, and you can be convicted just like some guy who pounds a fifth of whiskey and drive. Right. So marijuana is very, very risky based upon our faulty laws here in Nevada and the way in which they currently stand. Because whether or not you agree with if someone should be able to consume marijuana, I think we all can agree that the inactive ingredient that's still in your blood system that's moving through you should not be a cause to send you to jail or prison.
Correct. No, that makes a lot of sense. That's huge. That's a really good explanation because, again, like you said, in this county, marijuana is legal to consume in your home privately. Of course, you can't operate a vehicle, but that's a very realistic situation I could see somebody here and one of our listeners getting into. Attorney Michael Troiano, always a pleasure. Again, TroianoVegasLaw.com. Thanks for joining us, as always.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to close out the show with Kelly's Corner and some of our picks. You're listening to the Silver and Black Today here from the Stage Door Casino, home for Raider Nation in Las Vegas, on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
NCAA basketball this afternoon at 2 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Here we are. We are at the home for Raider Nation in Las Vegas. That is the Stage Door Casino. We are building it here. We have jerseys in the house. We have Matuzak, Bolitnikov. We have Howie Long. We have the Wally here, which is amazing. So you guys got to come down here. Check it out. $1 bottles of Budweiser and $2 Nathan's quarter-pound hot dogs. They're good. I'm going to have one as soon as I get off the air. So come on down. Join us for the game. The Jets and the Raiders kick off here in just a little bit. So get down here. Do not wait. And next week, the big Chiefs game, we're going to have a big blowout party as well. The Stage Door-ettes, the gals will be here. They'll take pictures with you. They'll have shots of tequila commissario and a bunch of other stuff. All right, so we're going to get back into it now, guys. And this is where we do Kelly's Corner. We usually do it a little bit earlier in the show, but we've had so many guests today, we kind of moved it around a little bit. So, Kelly, I know you have a longer one we're going to save till next week, which is actually a very good one, and I can't wait. We're going to tease people with that one. So, Kelly's Corner and then our picks. Kelly, take it away, buddy.
All right, well, everybody watched the lovely game in Mexico City that they had again. And I think I may have done this last year also. I don't want to hear another word about the NFL looking after player safety when they continue to put a crap field out there and make these guys play on it.
Right.
That was embarrassing for the league. That was embarrassing for everybody. You know what? 2 years in a row you've tried to pull this off, and it's failed horribly 2 years in a row. Yep. Stop it. I know you want to build this stuff. I know it's worked in the past, but guess what? You've dropped the ball 2 years in a row. You've put people in, these guys make their livelihood playing a sport.
Right.
An injury, career done. That's it. Don't do this anymore. I'm sick and tired of seeing these guys go out there. Well, hey, we're doing one game. You have one shot at it. You failed twice. It's over. Done.
Well,
that's it.
And that's what I'm confused by. So last year they canceled the game because it was. I mean, you saw the pictures from last year. It made this year look like it was fantastic turf. So then they go down there this year and it's still muddy. It's still a mess. Yeah. I can't believe that the NFL allowed it to happen. I mean, the fact that it had to have been a priority for them.
No, it's a money grab. The NFL they don't give a crap about their players. They care about money. That's all this is. It's a money grab. They didn't want to move it again because they lost revenue last time they did it, but they make more money by doing it. Don't blow smoke in my face and say, oh, player safety. They don't give a crap about player safety. They never have. It's all about money, and this proves it. Because, like I said, the last 2 seasons, I wouldn't put kids on that field to play, let alone adults playing a physical sport.
So kids. So you'd rather have kids get injured out there than adults?
No, I meant play in general. Yeah.
So Chaz, you usually find the positive in everything. What's the positive of the Mexico experience?
I was just talking to Michael Troiano about that. Teams moving overseas, and it's like, are the Chargers really going to move to Mexico City to play? I mean, could you imagine? I just the field. That's one thing, and then. I feel bad because, the elevation is another thing. You see these guys running for the oxygen tanks.
And cramping and all kinds of stuff.
And, what was it? They said it's like a three minute.
They play in Denver. They're fine.
Yeah, but this is twice as high as Denver.
Yeah, they're fine.
These guys, and it's like,
it's also air quality in Mexico City's horrible.
Oh, man. So there's just so many factors that go into that game. I understand building the brand, and obviously we grew up going to Mexico. I've had a lot of great times. I've gone down deeper into Mexico and had a lot of great times.
They're not putting the Raiders in Tijuana, Chaz.
Darn it. They got a good ring down there.
We have a lot. Chaz and I have a lot of memories down there. All right. So, guys, let's move on to first our NFL picks with the few minutes we have left here. We had about 3 minutes left. I'm going to give you mine since we're in a hurry. I'm taking the Giants over Chicago, +6. Nice. Yes, I know it's the New York Football Giants, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm also taking Buffalo, 3.5, depending, or 3 where you get it, over Denver. And then I am going to take the Seattle Seahawks -2 over the Eagles in that big game.
Did you just do 3?
Oh, I did 3. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, let's back out. I'll do the Eagles. Oh,
okay.
I will relinquish my Buffalo bet. Yep. I'll take the Giants +6 and the what did I say? Oh yeah, Seattle -2. Sorry.
I totally forgot what you've done already. All right.
That's all right.
Atlanta, Tampa Bay over 51. Those are just two horrible defenses, two good offenses.
Yep.
And I'm taking the Bears-Giants under 40. And it's under 40.5. I guarantee you that the Bears score a defensive touchdown that kills me.
Yeah. I love the way you do that reverse salt every week.
Oh, no. Here's why I'm going to lose because, I'm still betting. I have money on it. I'm still going to lose it because of this.
I'm with you. I got some money line games. I'm taking it. Well, actually, I don't have to do money line. I've got opposite of you. I'm taking Denver. I got it at 4, so I don't know.
I'll say the line's dropped. It was at 5 at one point. It opened at 5.
I got Denver +4, and then I got Carolina +9.5. I'm betting the money line on those games.
Carolina again.
I got 4-1 on Carolina money line.
Carolina and Tampa, man, just stay away for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Carolina's good. Tampa, boy,
Carolina's not good at football.
All right, and the Raider game. We got to pick the Raider game here with the minute and a half we have left.
Yep.
I'm going to be unpopular. I think the Jets win it. I've got the Jets 2017.
2017 Jets.
Very unpopular, Kelly.
Wally, take care of him, would you?
What? Okay, well, let me just brush that aside. The Raiders are definitely going to win this game today. They're actually going to win big. I know the weather's going to play a part in factor into the game, but I got the Raiders 24-13 over the Jets today.
Okay, and I'm going to go Roy Hart, the Raiders alumni who was here. He went with 27-17, so I'm going with Roy.
Yeah, Roy.
27-17 Raiders. So they're going to win by 10. They're favored by 3.
Yep.
Right? It hasn't gone down. So I like the Raiders by 10. Kelly doesn't like the Raiders.
I got the Raiders by 11.
You got the Raiders by 11. So that's what we got. All right, guys, that's the show.
All right, bring on the game.
Come on down to the Stage Door Casino. Watch the game with us. We are going to have a good time here with Raider fans. We're going to have our dollar, bottles of Budweiser, some hot dogs, and some fun. So make sure you do it. Kelly Kreiner, Chaz Osborne, thanks as always, guys.
Pleasure.
All right, Chaz will join me on Tuesday night for Silver and Black Tonight, 6 to 7 p.m. here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. But again, next week, December 1st, Raiders versus Chiefs. You have to come for the big party here at the Stage Door Casino. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have the Stage Doorettes. We're going to have the Silver and Black cocktail. We're going to have the Black Hole cocktail. You name it, it's all here. For Kelly, for Chaz, for our engineer, Trent Ogle, I am Scott Branson. Until next time, may the autumn wind always be at your back. Take care, everybody.